You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe, and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with CarrieRae Munson. I told you before the conversation, our interview started, that he's a very interesting individual. Has built an interesting business, saw a need, put together an idea to fill that need, and then in turn is taking her success along with her husband and done a great job in the nonprofit world following their passion and delivering it back to the community. So I encourage you, be sure in some way, somehow, you include the nonprofit world, the nonprofit part of Montgomery County and beyond in your business plans. Well, we got a great show coming up. I've got a mailbag item, one that probably most, if not everyone's thought about. Bill J sent it in, and we'll be going through that. And then our tip of the week will be 3 personal tips for you as a business owner. So I hope you'll stay with us, and we'll be right back. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're out and about today, and we've dropped in to see a friend, I guess. In my case, I've known Carrie for some time now and a member of our nonprofit business roundtable. CarrieRae Munson. She owns a business called, I got to get it right, Under Summers. Okay, never heard that word before. Under Summers. She's in the clothing business. She has been challenged by the pandemic. We've had conversations about that, and perhaps share some of her experience plus how she worked through it. Carrie, thanks for taking time, and I know you have a very busy day, to join us and talk a little bit about Under Summers and what you've been able to accomplish.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, Under Summers, talk about it. Tell us, give us a little background, how you got into the business, what you were trying to do, so on and so forth.
Sure. So 10 years ago, I can't believe it's been 10 years that I started this company. I was working as a speech pathologist. I was a speech pathologist for 15 years. And when I moved to Texas, the climate change was quite dramatic for me. I'm from Minnesota, and the climate is just so hot and uncomfortable here. And I was, out on the playground, on the floor, in this hot weather, and I needed something to wear that was professional and practical and not hot. And in my mind, a dress was the perfect solution, because as a speech pathologist, you're with young children in all kinds of locations. And then you're also meeting with parents and administrative staff. So I had to look professional and not be wearing shorts or whatnot. So dresses were in my mind, perfect solution, but I had a problem. I had a thigh chafing problem. And if you don't know what that is, you're lucky. And if you do, then you know why it's a problem, because it's a very horrible, uncomfortable feeling when your legs rub together and there's nothing to protect them. And it's not really a size problem for women, it's just a women's problem. And in fact, many men actually have it too. Now that I've been in the business for a while, I've learned that. So I wanted to wear dresses. I had this problem, and there was nothing on the market that was really solving my need. Women do lots of things to combat this issue. They wear nylons, they wear cutoff yoga pants, they wear bike shorts. Shapewear had recently really become a big thing. I was not going to wear shapewear because it's super uncomfortable and itchy. And so there wasn't anything on the market that was pretty and comfortable and practical for me. And I just thought I needed to solve my own problem. So I got on YouTube, figured out how to make a pattern, learned how to sew, got some sewing machines, tried a bunch of different fabrics, and through trial and error in about 6 months, I came up with this beautiful pattern that had a seam-free inner thigh. The leg stayed put without squeezing me, without any silicone or stickiness. And I could wear it as underwear. It was a single layer solution that solved my problem beautifully. And I quickly realized that I was not the only woman who needed this product. Being in the schools, I was working with all women. And next thing I knew, I was selling them to my friends. So I was making them in my garage, I was selling them, and that's how Undersummers came about. So the name Undersummers comes from I made them to wear under summer dresses. And I also named them a shortlet. So it's not a short, it's not a slip, it's shortlet. So that was my word I came up with to describe what I had created.
You know, obviously you have a wonderful story. I mean, you started in a garage. I mean, I know when I was coming up as a young entrepreneur and we heard stories about companies like Hewlett Packard started in a garage, and used to have a joke with one of my partners when we started a small electronics firm back in the day. So you're in the garage, you're solving a practical need in your case and sharing it with people. And then next thing you know, you've got a couple really great names for it, and you're out in the marketplace. So that was 10 years ago. So fast forward, you've been through the pandemic, just like a lot of people based on our conversations. It was presented its own set of challenges, and kind of tell us how you weathered that storm.
Sure. So, in 10 years, I went from me making them, sewing them, hand sewing them myself, to they're made in California. It's really important to me to stay made in the USA. So we try our best to have as many components and everything made here in the US. And right before the pandemic, a month before it hit, I had just moved into a much larger warehouse office space facility to prepare for growth because my company had really been growing. And during the pandemic, we had so many mixed messages. I think everyone in the whole world was confused and unsure of how long this was going to last. So as a business owner who was going into my summer season, I, didn't know, do I push forward? Are we going to sell a lot still in the summer? Are people not going to buy? What's consumer demand going to be like? And unfortunately, we were not going out. We were not going to weddings, parties, work, anywhere wearing dresses. We were home lounging in, wearing loungewear. And so unfortunately, my company was really affected by the pandemic. Customer demand just declined dramatically. And it's a sad thing to see some people describe their companies as babies or children because we nurture them and we help them grow and they become independent. And I was at the stage where my company had some independence. I had other people, a whole team really running it for me. And, by September, it was just me. I didn't necessarily have to let them go, but they chose to move on, knowing that the company was just really struggling. We just didn't have the revenue to support the team that I had built. And so it was really it was sad for me in the fall because I had worked so hard to grow the company to be independent, and it was back to just me. I'm happy to say though that this 2021 looks very normal, and we're back to having a team in place, and we're getting towards that independence that we once had. So, but it takes time. My company, my product is very seasonal, a spring, summer product. And so we had to wait for, for people to get back out and have a little bit of patience, I guess, and really buckle down and tighten in those expenses to make sure that we were going to survive. So fortunately, we have survived.
Well, and like you say, your company probably was on the one end of that scale of the impact of the pandemic. You were severely impacted, obviously, in the need to cut your workforce back. But I'm obviously very happy to hear that you're back to normal, whatever. I think we're going to have new normals instead of the old normal, whatever that means. But we're going to take a short break right now, Carrie, commercial break. And if, ladies and gentlemen, if you'll stay with us, we're going to come back and we're going to kind of dig into a little bit of what Carrie's done to market her product, because here she is operating out of a garage now into a warehouse, is grown, But marketing is always a challenge, I think, as we move through the various stages of growth. So please stay with us and we'll be right back with you.
Hey, this is Wayne Green, your host for Radio Wayne, Spoke and More. Each Saturday from 5 to 7 p.m., I'll be playing folk, singer-songwriter, Americana, blues, bluegrass, classic country, Cajun Zydeco, Celtic swing, and whatever else seems to fit. Once again, that's Radio Wayne, Spoke and More, every Saturday from 5 to 7 p.m. on Lone Star Community Radio.
God's Garage is a 501c3 that repairs and gives away cars for free to single moms, widows, and wives of deployed military. You can help God's Garage by donating a vehicle, volunteering your time, or by monetary donation. God's Garage is located at 2106 East Davis, Conroe. If you'd like to learn more about God's Garage, visit our website at godsgarage.org, or you can contact us and we would be glad to come and make a presentation to your group.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to continue our conversation here today with CarrieRae Munson. She's the owner of Under Summer, and it's a ladies' clothing line. But you also mentioned, Carrie, that there are men who have the same problem or challenge that you were trying to take on. Do you sell a line of men's garments now?
So I don't sell men's garments yet. I am really passionate about bringing wonderful, beautifully constructed garments that work to market. And it takes time to developing something that's really wonderful. And fortunately, during the pandemic, I did have plenty of time on my hands. And so I am developing a new line. It takes time. The pandemic has slowed production. It's slowed our mills down from producing fabrics. The factory that produces my garments has normally 50 sewers and there's like 15 working. So, the labor shortage, shall we call it, is also affecting things. But I will be having a new line for men coming out in the hopefully near future. I'm thinking probably in the next 3 months.
Well, that's got to be exciting, expanding your line in a sense that all for, in this case, ladies and now men, that is a huge leap, I would think.
It is a big leap. Marketing is very, very different. The whole different challenge of working for, developing something for men versus women.
And speaking of marketing, could you just take a moment and tell us how you market your product?
Sure. When I first started, I actually started out doing wholesale. So I had some sales reps working for me, and that is how I sold my garments to small boutiques. But that was, 10 years ago, and brick and mortar started to change, and the economy was doing really terrible, and all my sales reps quit. So at that time, that was about 3 years into my business, I decided that, well, e-commerce seems to be the way to go. It seems to be taking off. Amazon's really taking off. I'm going to sell direct to consumer and just totally shift gears. And that's what I did. So my biggest challenge was, how do you get a new product in front of consumers who don't know what to look for? So SEO is all about how to be found when people are searching for things. And people didn't know to search for my thing. They didn't know to search for a thigh chafing prevention product because we weren't talking about it. So it was a really big challenge. And I think in business, we all are gifted with some luck. And for me, luck came in the terms of a number of different media outlets purchased my product, didn't contact me, but purchased it and wrote some stories about Under Summers. BuzzFeed was one of them. There was another online magazine, women's journal called Exo Jane, and she wrote about Under Summers. And those few articles showed me that women really did want my products, because I nearly sold out when those 2 articles came out. So that told me that, okay, I know that consumer demand is working in e-commerce, but how do I get in front of more customers? And so that's when I started paid advertising. And, paid advertising seems scary. It's very expensive. I totally understand that because that's the world I live in today. It's the biggest part of my budget. But in order to get your brand new product, your product in front of consumers online, you really do have to pay to play. And so, today I have a full funnel of marketing that we're doing. People searching for it on Google, we're advertising there to make sure that they find Undersummers, they find our thigh chafing prevention products through keywords. And then, of course, we're on social media. And the important thing about social media marketing is making sure that you're advertising in the right place. My customer is a woman who's much like me, 35 to 55. We love to hang out on Facebook. So Facebook is a great place for me to market to my customers and find new customers to prospect. But there's we all know there's lots of different social media outlets today. And that's the biggest challenge, is knowing where is your customer and then going to those places to advertise. So I've recently heard that TikTok is the fastest growing audience on TikTok is women who are 40 and up. So that might also be a place for me to be exploring, looking for my customer base. So that's really how we're doing it today. We've built up our email list. We have a really robust email list, and it's finding those new customers and then nurturing them, loving them, making sure that they know that you care and that you're not a overseas foreign company who's just there to take your money. That's, people, you have to earn their trust. And when we battle those kind of companies that are out there, as a legitimate company like my own, we have to really nurture those relationships. And I like to think that we do a really good job. That really is part of our marketing as well.
It's funny you should say that, because I recently bought some clothing item from a smaller, appears to be a smaller company, and there was an issue, and I, shot them an email to customer service saying, this doesn't make sense. Why would you do that? Because sometimes I fall in a trap that I was in business before, and why is somebody doing this? It just doesn't make sense. And immediately I got a response from someone in the company, and with the apology and all this stuff, and he squared it around. And I was so impressed with the quick response. I think it was a real response, in other words, sincere. And so I've continued to do business with them. And, to be able to do that in a company obviously is important. Well, let's kind of shift gears here for a little bit. Now, one of the things you do, which is so impressive, is, one of my principles in business is, once a business gets through the startup phase, a new business, I'm a big advocate that the business needs to find and connect the business, if possible, meaning the people that work in the business and everything, a team effort to connect with a nonprofit and be that part of your culture of supporting a local nonprofit or whatever, is in your heart, because there's so many opportunities out there. You actually went out and started a nonprofit and have put, I know, a lot of time and effort and passion into it. Talk about how you transitioned or used your business as a foundation, so to speak, for moving into the nonprofit piece.
Sure. So, they do, when you're in the nonprofit, or when you're in the startup world, the entrepreneurial world, we do hear that, use your passions for something greater. And I really struggled at first with, what do I want to do? I have this beautiful company, and what do I want to do that's greater, above and beyond just Undersummers? And we do the kind of the obvious things. We donate to women's shelters. Underwear is a much needed garment in for the homeless and, women who are in like domestic violence shelters, human trafficking. So we do that obvious connection, but it wasn't necessarily my passion. My passion is recovery. I'm a recovering alcoholic. My husband's a recovering alcoholic, and my husband is a veteran who has suffered from PTSD and was at one time suffering so much that he was almost part of that 22 a day veteran epidemic that dies by suicide. And that's really where my passion lies, is in that recovery space. While it doesn't totally make sense with Under Summers, this very girly, fluffy, problem solving product about, making women feel great who they are, in their body, who they are without shaping like shapewear and such. I took my knowledge of how to start a company, how to create a brand, how to do all those things. And my husband and I decided that we wanted to give back to the veteran community, the men and women who served our country, who are suffering from PTSD and often alcohol and drug addiction, homelessness, so many struggles and challenges when they are transitioning to the civilian world. We decided we wanted to give back in that manner. And so while not a perfect fit with Under Summers, I've been able to use my skills to develop this really amazing organization called FOB-Razor. FOB-Razor is called such. FOB is the forward operating base on when they're out fighting. It's where they come to friendly lines. And Razor is spelled with an S, R-A-S-O-R. Joe Razor was my husband's best friend and right-hand man on the battlefield. They fought in Iraq and Afghanistan together. And when my husband was seeking help for his PTSD and alcohol addiction, Joe died by suicide. And we never know who's hurting. So we named it in his honor with his mom's permission, so that we have that constant reminder of we don't want to lose another one. And so we're really passionate about providing a space. So Under Summers has been able to provide a space for FOB-Razor, for these men and women to come and gather and heal together through peer-supported meetings. We do mandatory fun events. This weekend we had a pool party to build those relationships. And then we're also starting community outreach for suicide prevention. Suicide prevention is something that we just don't want to talk about as a country, as a community. And it is the number one cause of death in our young people, unbelievably. So Under Summers has allowed me to, take what I know and build something else to help the community at large. And really, that's where my passion is. And so anybody who's, started a company, has a company, not sure what they want to do, you have to go with where your passion is. And then it can flourish into something really great, like FOB-Razor has.
Well, you absolutely are living the mission, so to speak. So many people have so many great skills and experiences as business owners that can transition, maybe not necessarily starting a nonprofit, but participating and helping and bringing their knowledge and their effort and their passion to help that nonprofit. And as you and I know firsthand, being part of the roundtable, there's so many great local nonprofits, people doing wonderful work in all kinds of endeavors. So I always want to encourage anybody who'll listen to me, connect with the nonprofit, connect your business if possible, and allow your employees, if you will, to be part of something as well. I don't know that you can do anything greater with your time and your effort than bring people to the nonprofit and help them connect as well. So, well, Carrie, I appreciate your time today. I appreciate you sharing your passion with FOB-Razor and how you've utilized your talents, your experiences of building your business. And I hope the pandemic's behind us. And the new normal, I guess, for Under Summers is going to be, you're going to have a men's line. So you come out of the pandemic and you've got a totally different business, I guess, from my perspective, selling to men versus women. So good luck on that. If people want to learn more about either your nonprofit or about Under Summers, how can they best do that?
So if you want to learn more about Undersummers and our thigh chafing prevention products, you can go to undersummers.com. So it's undersummers with an S at the end.com. And you can learn more about us, and then you'll get to see some of our wonderful marketing once you get there. And Bob Razor also has a website. It's FOBRASOR, Bob Razor with an S.org. And you can learn more about what our mission is, what we're doing, how to help, and about our board members who are also community members who want to support the mission. So our websites are great places to find information about both Undersummers and Bob Razor.
Well, again, thank you so much. The best to you and your family. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short break and then we'll continue the program. So I hope you'll stay with us, and I hope you'll reach out to Carrie. Again, the nonprofit, the for-profit business, I think you'll be surprised and enjoy, and in my opinion, learn a lot by connecting with either one or both of those businesses. So we'll take it from there. Thank you again, Carrie. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with CarrieRae Munson. I told you before the conversation, our interview started, that he's a very interesting individual, has built an interesting business, saw a need, put together an idea to fill that need, and then in turn is taking her success along with her husband and done a great job in the nonprofit world following their passion and delivering it back to the community. So I encourage you, be sure in some way, somehow, you include the nonprofit world, the nonprofit part of Montgomery County and beyond in your business plans. Well, we got a great show coming up. I've got a mailbag item. One that probably most, if not everyone's thought about. Bill J sent it in, and we'll be going through that. And then our tip of the week will be 3 personal tips for you as a business owner. So I hope you'll stay with us, and we'll be right back.
Hey y'all, it's DJ Mike from Dance Time in Texas. Join me Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. as I count down the top 10 Texas Red Dirt songs that are packing the dance floor. I'll be featuring local artists and the story behind the hits, shows in the area, as well as new songs that make you want to dance. It's Dance Time in Texas with DJ Mike on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5 KCZW and 106.1 KZCC, Conroe, Texas, or online, irlonestar.com.
Did you know there are more than 790 abused and neglected children currently in foster care in Montgomery County? Will you help make a difference? I'm Allie Stevens with Casa Child Advocates of Montgomery County. We train and support volunteers to be the voice of children in the foster care system. Kids are removed from their home because of abuse and neglect, and we need volunteers just like you to advocate for these children. To learn more about becoming an advocate, please visit CasaSpeaksForKids.com. That's CasaSpeaksForKids.com.
Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. I'm Rick Schissler. I'm your host, and I hope you've enjoyed the show so far. We're to the second half now, and as I mentioned before the break, we got some great segments coming up, some discussions hopefully that will benefit you and your business. But before we do that, quick review of the conversation that you just heard with CarrieRae Munson. You know, CarrieRae, obviously very passionate, started a business. It's been successful. Suffered a little bit, and who didn't during the pandemic, but she's building it back. And at the same time, during the pandemic, she and her husband acted out of passion, and they started FOB Razor. Obviously some deep-seated needs and problems and challenges that they had personally faced provided them with a really good background to start this organization. And what I really want to do, and I've gotten a little repetitive, don't mean to be, but encourage you. Every business, in my opinion, every business needs to be affiliated in some form or fashion with a nonprofit, or maybe more than one. And when I say affiliated, I mean it may be as simple as making an annual contribution. It may be where you have a work day and your employees go on a Saturday and do some hands-on work at the nonprofit. It may be that you personally are on the board of the nonprofit and you give a lot of time, talent, right, and money to that nonprofit. There's a lot of different ways this can work, but I think it can have a huge impact on the culture that you have in your business and the performance of your people, particularly if they see the business, they see you involved in the community, trying to do things for people and situations that really need the support. So again, I take a huge encouragement from what CarrieRae and her husband are doing to go back into the community and take some of that background experience with a huge amount of effort, taking that risk and getting out there and getting involved. Again, I encourage you, your business, your employees, if possible, if you can do that and feel good about that. Affiliation with a nonprofit done right has nothing but upside for you and your business. Well, we're going to go to the mailbag here for a few minutes, and I want to congratulate Bill J. J being the last initial of his name. He sent in an issue, I call it mailbag request, asking for some feedback. And he's told it like it is, in my opinion. And I'll read this to you real quickly. His question: I have operated my business for 20 years with steady increases in most years. However, the recent pandemic really crushed us, and our sales fell off almost 40%. We have gained back about half of that loss, but I see a lot more work that needs to be done to bring us back to where we were pre-COVID. In addition, like many businesses, we suffered with negative profitability as well. He says, and goes on to say, that I am tired and at this point not sure what the future holds for my business, family, and all that we work for. What is your advice on how to determine best objectively, be objective in that determination, what we should do going forward with the business? That's a huge question, Bill. I mean, a complete answer to that question would take a period of time that we don't have on a show like this. And along those lines, I encourage you, contact us, contact me, email, real simple. Just send it to onebestconsult@gmail.com, onebestconsult@gmail.com, or you can send it to the station, Lone Star Community Radio. We have an email there, rick@irlonestar.com, and I'll respond to you. We can have a call or we can exchange some emails, but I'm here to help and would be glad to discuss this issue in particular, because this issue to some degree has affected every business owner in the country, every individual who has a job even, and there's lots of things. You read these dramatic headlines. People are quitting their jobs. They're moving on. They've reevaluated, and that's really my simple answer on today's program for you, is to consider reevaluating. I think people should do that, particularly business owners, from time to time. We need to do that. We need to reevaluate. And if you haven't done so in the last 6 or 12 months, then I think everyone, including you, Bill, needs to consider what's going on. You need to ask that magic question: why am I doing this? Why did I take over or start this business? That's a question hopefully you asked when you got into the business, started the business back in the very beginning, whether it was a year ago, 6 months, a year, or 20 years ago, 20 plus, as Bill did. Need to ask that question of yourself. Is it for the money? Was it an idea that I want a control of my life? A lot of folks leave corporate life and want that control of owning their own business, a chance to build something, or take a business to another level, something unique, something different. I have an idea, kind of like CarrieRae Munson did in our conversation earlier in this program. Lots of different reasons people get into business for themselves. And it really doesn't matter to me as I evaluate that, because each person has a unique reason typically for being in business. So it's personal. And whether you want to share it or not, that's another subject. But the idea is it's time to step back and get grounded and focused on your goals. And before you can do that, then you need to look at what your goals really are. This could happen not just with a pandemic, but a life-changing event that occurs in your life, your family's life. The key is, though, set aside some time for yourself, preferably quiet time, if you know what that means, and reaffirm and recommit or decide to go a different way. And be sure you're including your family in these deliberations, thinking about them. Because sometimes the family, something happens, and the family needs to go a different direction, maybe relocate. That happened to me in my career. We needed to relocate for a certain reason, and it changed my perception, changed or adjusted my goals to some degree, but it needed to be done for the benefit of the family, and I've got to make that assumption that if you own a business, part of the reason you own it is to give some security to your family. So be sure you consider the family, and remember, you may make the decision based on the family, but you got to include yourself, the business, the people you work with, your employees, your vendors, and your customers. It's lots of things that go on this plate, but it's not as hard as it may seem. But I encourage you to do it sooner than later. Thanks, Bill, for the question. We're going to take a break now. We're going to go to commercial break, and when we come back, we'll have our tip of the week. 3 personal tips for you as business owners. But in the meantime, don't forget to send us emails. I love to get emails with questions, comments about the show, questions about your own business, like Bill took time to send us an email. It's real simple. Send it to onebestconsult@gmail.com. That's onebestconsult@gmail.com. Hang in there, and we'll be right back with you.
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/Conroe Culture.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're in the final segment of today's show. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and I'm Rick Schissler, your host, and I hope you've enjoyed the show to this point. We're going to get to the tip of the week in just a moment, but first I want to encourage you. If you're a local business here in Montgomery County, Conroe, Willis, Montgomery, some of the towns, the woodlands that surround our area and throughout the county, consider being a sponsor of this program. Lone Star Community Radio, which is where we broadcast live from, they're a community nonprofit, and this is nonprofit community radio. So as a sponsor, you're actually a donor, and I would enjoy talking with you, if need be, meet with you about being a sponsor. Sponsor your business on Lone Star Community Radio, the Weekly Business Hour. All you have to do is send me an email. I'll send some information back to you. It's real simple, and tell you how you can make that happen. So drop me an email here at the station, Rick, R-I-C-K, at irlonestar.com. Please consider being a sponsor. We like to bring the small business community together, and being a sponsor is one way we can do that. Well, the One Best Consult tip of the week. I was trying to think about where people were, and we did a couple conversations this week with small business owners and talking to them and where they are and what's going on in the business community, what's going on in the world. I'll leave a lot of that to your reading, but there's 3 things that I came up with that I think are very important for you as a business owner to consider doing right now. In other words, implement these ideas, in my opinion, sooner than later. So I want to pass these tips on to you, and hopefully they are helpful to you. The first one is continue, or start if you haven't done much, build a support network for you and your business. Build a support network for you and your business. Now, okay, networking. I know what networking is, right? It's when I go to a meeting or an event and I attempt to meet other people and we swap business cards and talk about our businesses. And well, I'm not directly talking about networking. I'm talking about the network that supports your business. And there are a number of ways that you can do this, and kind of let me go through this list. First of all, I encourage you, stay networked. That means connected with the larger business community, meaning the businesses in your area, whether it be in Conroe, Montgomery County, or somewhere else in the state or the country, even overseas, since we have listeners overseas. Be sure you're connected. So many people feel they're so busy running and building their business, they can't do this. And one of the greatest places to do that, to stay connected, join the local Chamber of Commerce. Find out what they're doing. Attend an event or two each month, business events they have, breakfasts, lunch, after hours. Stay connected. When they have a speaker that has some interest for you, attend that at lunchtime instead of eating lunch in your office or going out with friends to lunch. Take one day a month and go and listen. Learn what's happening in the larger business community that is around you, and consider the Chamber of Commerce as a great source. Secondly, encourage you to find or have a personal business coach, a mentor. I do this for a living. I've worked with literally hundreds of businesses, business owners. I encourage people to at least meet with their coach or mentor 2 to 4 times a month. Some people like that once a month, just for an hour. And it's about accountability. It's about you having a business challenge and wanting to vent and put it out there. And your business coach or mentor should be able to help you find answers to some of the more difficult problems and challenges you have. Also, the accountability, checking in with you on your goals. What's going on? Have you made that move? Have you done this? Someone you can be accountable to that is still on your side. They're there to encourage and help you do the very, very best that you're capable of doing. Also, network with business-oriented groups on the internet. Now, I'm talking LinkedIn, Facebook. There are lots of thousands of groups. Here locally, we have one called I Love Conroe. It's focused on Conroe, Texas, and a number of small business people have connected there. And it's a little upbeat, lighthearted, but it's just an example. And you can connect through that with particular business owners that maybe your business and their business has something to work together on. I encourage that very much so. Be part of a roundtable group. The local Conroe Lake Conroe Chamber sponsors a roundtable for business owners. Once a month, an hour or two meeting, peers in a confidential environment, exchanging ideas with local business people and people who become your friends ultimately and your supporters. You've always got someone you can reach out to that you can ask, say, I'm in a jam or I'm thinking about buying a business. And those roundtable groups really, really help you get through those and make the really best choice that's possible for you to make. I also mentioned briefly industry groups. Every industry has a business groups, either locally, regionally, or nationwide that you can plug into. Main objective there is to see what's happening in your industry as far as products and services offerings that have been developed, maybe in another part of the country, and you say, hey, that would work good here. I need to consider implementing that type of service offering or bringing those products into my business to sell to the folks I service. So it's important. Try to join. It should be nominal to annual dues, but stay in touch with those groups and be involved to some minimal degree, or you can really get involved, join the board, those kind of things. But again, connection with now a national group. It's hard to find time to do these things. Local, regional, nationwide, roundtables, mentors. But when you step back from your business, you need to consider 5, 6, 7, 8 hours total a month that you can participate in these groups, the roundtables, meet with a business mentor or coach, and do all the things that you need to do to build the best possible business for you and your family. So I think that's very important that you consider doing that, and I think you will see really outstanding results as you get into it. Very, very important to your business. A couple other things, be specific with your goals. If you've got a 3-year plan, 5-year plan, an exit strategy, whatever, be sure that's broken down into maybe weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual goals, because you've got to do certain things almost every day in order to get to some goal that's 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 years down the road. Because you end up going off track. I see that happen all the time. So be very specific about it. And if you really want to see something, bring your employees into goal setting. It's an interesting thing. You can build a performance type organization that is geared to hitting certain metrics and goals. Each individual does theirs, The company does theirs, you do yours. It's an amazing situation when all those pieces come together and operate as one. And last but not least, and the third thing I think that you could do to really help you in your business today is delegate. Delegate everything that you can. Reserve the high value task that you can do and you do better than anyone else. Yes, all of us need to do some things, mundane type of things, but outsource, delegate to an employee. You're only going to grow your business when you extend yourself, when you can move forward. And you're the engine, in a sense. You're the engineer that's driving the train. Don't get bogged down in mundane details and low value tasks. Let somebody else do it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. I encourage you this coming week, as I always do, stay focused on what's important for your business. Everyone has a different perception, goals, and needs. It's your business. Make it work to the best of your ability to be the best business anywhere in the world. We'll see you next week. Thanks.